Hey, how's it going, guys? Ancient Rune here, back with another Wonderlands build video, and today we are going over Spell Stab. This is a build focused on the Spellblade. Now, after its nerf, where it would apply to everything melee, now it only applies to melee swings, and I saw some people thinking that it still wasn't that strong now, after the nerf and didn't have much use, but I just wanted to show how you can make it well on this Trapscallion. So it's really nice and really strong, actually. I didn't expect it to be this strong, but I knew it was strong, but I didn't expect it to be this good. So the Spellblade turns all bonuses into the conditional damage source for your melee. It also will boost crit chance, but that doesn't matter for here. So yeah, that's why it's so good. And before, again, it would apply to everything. So Executioner's Blade, Ghost Blade, Dreadwind, the Clawbringer's Hammer. I've had builds with Clawbringer Hammer before. Rest in peace, those builds. And so you could still make all those work, but just not with Spellblade, or at least definitely not as well. So here we just go for the melee swings, and it's really, really good. I hope you guys enjoy this build, and if you haven't, make sure to like and subscribe. Alright, and for the gear here, we just have some of the basic melee stuff here. We have a live wire, which we use. We have a tooth raider, which is for bossing, or if you have like a really tough enemy. Queen's Cry, I like to use the taser for Executioner's Blade because it's pretty fun. And then in the fourth slot, I'd probably put a delusion. It's good for soaked. We do have Cape of Tides here, but you may not have that. So I'd probably have a delusion. I don't use any Fear Nuts or Scalawags. I didn't really feel like it. And Livewire is just really good with this just because Livewire is dumb. But you could try some of those. I haven't really messed with it just because I didn't really care much, and I'm not using a Barbalode. And I have other things I use instead of Barbalode. But yeah, I use Spellcast Melee on these. Action Skill Start Melee would also work well. So would Action Skill Start Spell Damage as an enchant, but I don't use any of those. Here we have the Spellblade. I don't know if this can get a 12% crit chance at this swing speed, but I prefer this swing speed. And it has a 115 crit damage. It may be able to get 125. I can't remember the parts. I have seen lower swing speed with 12% crit chance, but I didn't really want the higher percent crit for that lower swing speed because I like to swing fast. And then we used a Consect Hits enchant, and now you'll either want to probably use Ancient Hilt and Vampire Hilt. This will help a lot for survivability and access uptime. And then I guess we'll just swap over to here because this is where it depends with the Thurge or Skeep Amulet. With the pairing, if I go Ancient Hilt, I like to go with Skeep so we can get our health back. And then with the Thurge, I like to pair that with the Vampire Hilt with the cooldown from the Amulet instead and survivability from the Vampire Hilt. I like to prefer Ancient and Skeep, but if whatever you get is what you want to use. Here you see we'll go lightning damage. That's just matching element with our Spellblade, so match whatever you want. Since we're using soaked, you want to try and find lightning or cryo damage, and same with the Spellblade. Corrosive ain't bad for like some corrosive bosses, but it's not a main focus. And then we go Spell Shot Power to increase our Spellblade stacks to get more damage to our Spellblade. And then for the shield here, we use a Body Rune. Health roll or capacity roll doesn't really matter. I like it for the healing. Because we're using Soak, the fire bonus element doesn't do as much, but it's still nice. And if you're not using Soak, then it just becomes even better. Yeah, Action Skill Start, all damage here. And then with the spell, we use Spellcast, all damage. All these three can go wherever. It doesn't really matter where. These are just the ones I like. Probably action skill start melee would be more because it's like a 10% more melee damage, but I prefer the spellcast one. So yeah, we go in Empowering Sigil for our spell because it'll freeze enemies for that melee bonus. Just mixes between cooldown and radius. I like having some radius, just so it's easier to hit enemies. Then some cooldown, just because it's a really low cooldown spell as well. It's really nice to be able to spam. And then here we go, Thumb Cuffs. Any ring will work. It doesn't really matter, like purple rings as well. You want to get either melee damage or spell damage. Ideally melee damage, but you can't be too picky sometimes. With melee crit damage optimally, and then melee crit chance is nice for out of From the Shadows, but technically not optimal for From the Shadows. But I like having that damage there. Action skill cooldown and action skill duration is also really good because we don't have any stab power. So having that duration for From the Shadows would be really nice. And then here for the armor, we use a Spell Spore. Spell Burr would also work, just something with high thread count because that'll get us more spell damage stacks. I didn't find any other armor that really helps. Nothing I really liked. I like going Spell Spore because you get that reload speed, so when you're reloading these things, like reloading the live wire I like to do for just for building stacks up with spell weaving, and then I also like to shoot it a bunch for applying soaked sometimes. So that's just really nice to have, but really you just need armor with high thread count, which is either Spell Spore or Spell Burr. And I like to go Cape of Tides. Also, Warp Paradigm would be nice, but when I was doing math for my setup with my bonuses, it was around like 80%. And I already have over 150%. It would still be really good, but I felt a pure molt boost when we have Soaked active would be a lot better, which it technically is, but there are some points where I think Warp Paradigm would be better, but it's not significant to focus that. But yeah, still, if you find that, it's nice. Also, an Amalgam would be fine. So I go all damage, melee damage, and move speed. The move speed's just quality of life from moving around. Doesn't matter too much. I just really like move speed. You can always go melee crit chance. That's really nice for out of From the Shadows as well, but definitely not needed. And then for the skill tree here, we of course go From the Shadows. This is a weird setup because it's spell shot, not going anything with guns. But first we'll go with the stab tree. Pretty general with these ones here. We go Swift Death just because Arsenal doesn't help. Follow up doesn't really help. Shadow Step would be nice, but we're swinging our melee weapon so often that it won't have enough time to proc often enough for me to think it's worth it. So we go Swift Death. Again, it's not that good, but it's better than nothing. Then we go Nimble Fingers because this gives fire rate, which is nice for when I shoot my weapons. And then the spell damage for the Spellblade. Elusive just for survivability. Contagion for dots with alchemical agent. And then 1,000 cuts just because it's all damage. It'll be up when we're in From the Shadows. It'll be nice damage. Nothing perfect. It's definitely not usually worth it, but there's nothing better for me to take. And then Executioner's Blade. This will be nice for when you're shooting stuff. Just has a chance to proc, and it will get the it'll get the melee stuff. It won't get the Spellblade conditional damage bonus. That was changed to where it's only melee swings again. But it's really nice for flying enemies. I found I use it a lot. Or just enemies that are tough to hit. And then here we go 5 Prestidigitation, the extra 4 from our armor. Mage Armor, Fauna Mana, and then the rest in just warming up with Glass Cannon and High Thread Count. We go Glass Cannon here because of spell damage. You could go without it, but you'd be missing some good conditional damage here. And then here we go Village Idiot just because it's like the go-to stuff. With max strength, max wisdom, and then the rest into skill cooldown. You could also put some in the spell cooldown or max HP reward, even dexterity for crit chance, but this is what I like to go. You can experiment more with what you like. You probably don't need attunement, but I like having it for consistency. I hope you guys enjoyed the build. This is definitely a very strong build. It can come close to Salt and Battery, not as good definitely. But at its peak, it's very, very strong to like some Salt and Battery level. But it also just depends, and you have to have like your from the shadows up, your spell active and freeze, and then get a good alchemical agent dot. So it just all depends on time and place for different enemies, how good of damage it'll be, but it's always very consistently good damage, and that's what matters here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this build video. The save file will be in my Discord, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.